is here. Annette got us some information on the on Angus. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Do you want to summarize that, Annette, or just some of the yeah. Hi,
That's
Camilla.
good.
Nice to see you. Tim is here. Well, Tim wanted to hear it too. So okay, go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, well, I can put in the chat. It's Wandering Angus by the Waterboys,
Mhm.
and it's about more or less the story of the swans. Angus is wandering, and he has the anima in his dreams. His anima is Caher. She sings to him in his dreams, and he has this beautiful swan song. And then he has to find her, and then his father encourages him to actually really find her in the real world.
Mhm.
So, but he's afraid to mix up the dream world and the real world, of course. So it takes him 3 years, and then finally his brother finds her in a swan lake, and then of course she is the daughter of the fairy king, and the fairy king says, she's wild, and good luck if you want to win the hand of my daughter, you know. She will
Mhm.
make her own decision, and so that's you know. And then Angus has to he discovers that she transforms herself just before the winter into a swan, and he has to meet her at that point of transformation.
Mhm.
And he finds her then, but he's a little bit late, and when he finds her, there are about 1,000 swans, and she is one of them. So the song is then that he has to find the right anima amongst all these swans, because
Beautiful.
because he in his life has loved many the animas, and now he has to find the right anima, you know. That's the
Mhm.
challenge he put out to him. And and then he finds her after he's scared, but he closes his eyes and he remembers the swan song, and then with that he finds her. And then she demands, of course, that he also has to join her in her world, so he has to become a swan as well. And he is the biggest thing, I think, in this. And then you get the sweetheart, you know, the two
Yeah.
swans together.
The two swans that form a heart. Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
And there's many varieties in Ireland of songs. Like there's also Raglan Road, the one I also send you. It's quite beautiful, I think, as well. That's also about an earthly anima. But that is
Mhm.
the song of a man who doesn't have the courage to get into action. And
Mhm.
he dreams. Sorry,
Yeah,
sorry.
that's
I'm just
okay. I've got all kinds of noises like that all day long.
sorry.
Well, yeah, it's just the Celtic ones are particularly powerful. And see, the one thing that she's going to, oh, well, why don't you
Sorry.
finish? Yeah, go ahead, Annette.
So with the earthly one, it's I can put the titles in the chat and then you can find
Yes.
it. There's many artists have done it, you know, and it has beautiful lyrics. And then they meet again as old ghosts in the street, but they recognize each other, but they admit that they have never had the courage. Both of them had never had the courage to connect, and
Yeah.
it's very, very sad but beautiful, you know.
Well, you know, thank you, Annette. That's is just absolutely wonderful. That the to get that more nuance on that, because Jan is here. Great. I just wanted to. Hi, Angel and Camilla. Welcome. Camilla, I don't know. You may have been here before, but if you haven't, you can put your email in the chat. But
Okay. Hello.
yeah. Huh. Where are you from? Hawaii? Is that right?
No, I'm from Denmark, but I live
Oh,
in
from
Sweden, in Malmö.
Okay, great. Well, yeah, we're just we're going to be discussing today something that is has a lot of Nordic elements in it. You know, my father comes from Norway, and so I really you know,
That's great.
that, yeah, I know, yeah. Yeah, I can sort of read Danish. I can't really speak. I can speak Norwegian and I can read Danish and a little bit of Swedish, but it's hard for me to understand spoken.
Yes.
Norwegian.
And
Yes.
there's a lot of throaty sounds anyway that
Well,
are
yeah.
sort of shortened words and all that. But
Yeah,
nice to meet you. It's the first time I attend, but I know of Jungian analysis. I've been in for a long time, and I'm studying it a bit as well now.
Yeah, well,
So-
great to have you. You know, one of
Thank
the
you.
things we're reading, and I'll put it, if you get in the email, I'll get you Animus and Anima by Emma Young. But the one thing I'm saying about this is for the first time. I mean, the way that she approaches this. And by the way, hi, Tim and Miles and Angel and Jan and yeah, who else? My darn glasses are giving me up here. Oh, and Yugar, yeah, hi, Yugar. I thought you might have been Jordy, but nice to have you here too. If you put your email in the chat, we'll send you the text. But what we're going to do here, Camilla, is something that has really been just a revelation to me from this book, is what the anima really is, because she is the original title of this book in German is Naturwesen, and it means nature being. Okay, and what we are following this book, I think we almost have to read James Hillman's Anima, you know, the anatomy of a personified notion, because he's going to tell us the difference between a nature being, the feeling function, and the feeling function, is it related to valuation or is it relatedness? Because there's two different types. Eros, where the anima has this historical relationship to myth and legend of the of really these nature beings, because first I want to show you just a couple, introduce it, and then we'll get right into the things. First of all, this is kind of tells us a little bit about the nature beings. This is from Maurice Egan, and you know, this all started in the Romantic period, where people started to sense that nature was informed by soul. You know, the actual what they had seen in nature, seen the forms of nature, the different flora and fauna and all that. There was a wisdom behind it, and that they felt that this own wisdom was in them, and this mysterious relationship between nature and spirit, you know, and the fact that I'm going to get to this, but it says, a pagan heart, a Christian soul had he. He followed Christ, yet for dead Pan he sighed. You know, that was that's just I think that really is something that awakens an energy in all of us. You know, but the other aspect, this what is first I want to show you this little diagram that Hillman sets out, which is I think to me it was just complete revelation. You know, let me see if I can find this. Oh, darn it! Where this thing's giving me? Hold on. Okay. Okay, is this diagram here. Now this think about this here. First of all, Hillman uses this analogy of Plato's cave, okay, the allegory of Plato's cave. You've all heard it, where there's people who are chained in front of a wall, and these shadows, the fire behind puts the shadows on the wall, and they think this is reality, you know. And then up the world above, outside of it, is the genuine awareness. This is a secondary awareness. And what Hillman says is, you know, the cave awareness that's highly valued by the ego and seems to possess masculine energies in his outer world is choice, the freedom of choice, you know, and light, you know, the light of ego, problem solving, reality testing, strengthening ego, developing ego, controlling nature, and progress. These are the qualities that are highly valued by the ego. But what Hillman says is genuine awareness is as far as the ego is concerned, is worthless, it's rejected. It is feminine energies. This has nothing to do with the woman. Okay, it has to do with receiving, being in the present moment. It has more to do with the Tao than it does a woman. You know, it is the receiving, being present in this moment, not in the past or the future. Being able to accept life without willfulness, willful rebellion, you know. And these are the feminine energies. The masculine energies are more of the hero archetype, you know. But just listen to the words: the visionary, the realm of images, which the unconscious is, the reflection. This is something that that Marion Woodman stresses, that you write down what happens during the day and reflect upon it. You know, this is a feminine thing to do. Insight, that means you're open to the intuitive world, this mirroring aspect, holding, brooding on something. Don't decide right now, sleep on it. Sleep on it a couple days. Then the answer comes to you. You don't have to choose between two. The answer becomes a natural decision, not digesting things. You know, this is the Buddha sat for 7 days. Then he stood and looked at the place he sat, relating, integrating, integrating. You know, this is digesting, you know, and then echoing and deepening. Now, I'm not exactly sure I can define all those terms, but that's genuine awareness, and it's feminine. The cave awareness is this more direct approach, you know. And he also makes this wonderful statement, and then we're going to get into Emma Young and nature beings. Dr. Wesson is, and why would we study nature beings? Why is it, you know, is this the anima that appears in dreams? Not necessarily, but what she's saying is that we need to look at how the anima image developed. And you look at the Valkyries of the Nordic and Germanic peoples, and the water beings and the nymphs of the Celtic peoples, and the tree nymphs, and then out of that comes courtly love, you know, the Minne singers, the you know, the Frauendienst, which means to be in service to the feminine, you know, as opposed to the monastery world of being in service to the Logos. The courtly love was something that came after these more elemental folk tales and legends, you know, and it was the differentiation and the strength of the anima. But what Hillman says, and then I'll run on to this, is that consciousness really came out of those feminine energies. And this was really sensed by Meister Eckhart. You know, And here's what Meister Eckhart says, which I think totally evokes Hillman. When the soul or the feminine energies of the anima wishes to experience something, she throws an image of the experience out before her. The ego consciousness comes out of her. And then she enters her own image. Okay. So the ego thinks the anima is its projection. And Jung's anima told him, no, you are my projection. You are my vehicle to experience time and space. And then after I experience time and space through you, then I'm more informed, and the God image can evolve, in the inner world. Anyway, this is it's just something, it's a totally revelation to me, and it gives me a better understanding of, if you really want to understand the anima, you need to understand these nature beings, the swan maidens, the water nymphs, and the tree nymphs, and then the aspect of courtly love. And then from there, then maybe you can go on to what is the feeling function? What is that all about? What is Eros? Eros, Hillman says, is a more immediate experience than the anima, which has this peculiar historical flavor. The Eros and the feeling function are related to the feminine and related to the anima, but the anima is really the personification of the unconscious, which is the personification of psyche and the personification of nature. Really, unconscious is this, and that list of energies, which is genuine awareness versus cave awareness. Anyway, any questions or comments on that? Because I'm just introducing a little bit of background before we get into, we're just, I think we'll not slowly, but just deliberately go through some of these tales, as Annette just, I don't know if you missed it, it'll be in the YouTube. She gave us a wonderful rendition of Angus, who is a Irish hero who became a swan himself. That's the proper to experience the swan maiden. You need to become a swan yourself. And this word metaphorical means transformation, and it means really that you unite with the anima, and then you become her, and then you go back to time and space. Metaphorical means transformation. Ovid's Metamorphoses, which is a book of transformation, is also describing this process. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, so, that makes sense, but I almost would have thought of that as mirroring, like where he has to become the swan. So how would you define mirroring then?
Well, what Emma Young describes it as, and I don't say I completely understand it, is that the woman, or the anima, and the woman are the mirror for man. First of all, man is supposed to be the mirror which held up to the unconscious, so she can see herself. But then that's what the role of the non-knuckle walking hominids is to be the mirror to the anima, so that she can see herself. Now, as far as the anima being the mirror for ego, that is also true, because its source is nature. It's out here with its cave awareness, which the anima needs to experience time and space, but it needs to then come back. And what she says is women who are more related to the feminine energies have a powerful, she says, unbelievable adroitness or cleverness at being the mirror for the male ego, you know, that she says it can go one of two ways, that it can either lead to transformation, or it can lead to the man mirroring himself, where it's just flattering him and adding to his vanity. And she said, so that's not transformational. The other aspect is the one that leads forward. Now, I'm saying I don't completely understand this. We're going to need to get maybe some research, Jan, or something on what mirroring actually means.
Yeah, or if anybody has like, you know, fairy tales that they think,
Yes,
you know, kind of show us, that'd be a great way to get a kind of a feeling for it.
I think the way forward is to just finish these what we're going to be doing. We discussed partially the Swan Maidens last time. We're going to finish Swan Maidens this time, start on the water nymphs. Now, the water nymphs, in contrast to the Swan Maidens want nothing to do with man. You know, they are tricked by men stealing their swan mantle when they take the form of women to bathe in the take their bath. Then the man grabs the swan mantle and makes a bargain with them for them to marry her. But at the first opportunity, they go back to the swan world. And the only way you can follow them is to become a swan yourself, like Angus did. Okay. Now, in contrast to the Swan Maidens, the water nymphs, these are the feminine water beings, want a relationship with humans, you know, because what they are saying is they, even though they look like humans, they were not born of Adam. So they didn't enter time and space. So the only way that they can become a time and space being, which they say they live in a soulless world. Now this is pretty interesting. The fairies, you know, they live forever. They have no problems. They don't need food. There's no evil in the fairy world. I mean, they're neutral. Why would they want anything to do with the human world? Because they lack the promise of youth. You know, since they live in a timeless world. So what do fairies do? They steal babies, human babies, and they take them back to the fairy hill, okay? And they leave in their place a wizened old elf, you know, who assumes the form of that human baby and becomes a changeling. And, you know, many parents said, oh, no, that's not our baby, I don't think. I think that might be a changeling, you know. And so they had tricks that they could use to tell whether that was a real baby or a changeling. Like they would do something upside down or backwards. And the elves are so curious, or the fairies are so curious, that they finally, even they're a baby, will say, now, why are you doing that then? You know, and then they could tell that their baby was a changeling, you know. But anyway, the whole idea is the water nymphs, the water beings, in contrast to the Swan Maidens, want a relationship with humans, you know. So this is sort of a progress. Then from there, we're going to go into the realm of the more human, which is the realm of courtly love, you know, the Minna singers. And the Minna means women, or, you know, has a feminine content. And it was called the age of the Minnedienst, or the Frauendienst. And that means that you're in service to the anima, okay, through the woman, you know. And so that was a further amplification of the anima image, starting about in the 12th or 13th century, in high contrast to what had become the monk world, you know, the nurturing of logos underneath. And then you also had alchemy, alchemical wisdom appear in this age too, you know. But anyway, any other comments? And by the way, Jorga, did you want to introduce yourself or anything? You don't have to, but you definitely put your email in the text, you know. And if you ever have any comments or anything, just unmute and just interrupt. Anybody else have any comments? And then we'll start getting into the text itself.
I'm a little bit curious about I assume we'll get into the differences there between the water beings and the air beings.
Yes.
But I'm curious what the character is of that longing for time and space. Why wouldn't those beings be perfectly happy in the world without time and space?
Because they lack the promise of youth.
Okay, but what does that provide? I mean, in a timeless world, what good is the promise of youth?
There's nothing happens there. That's the you know, sort of the fallacy of the heavenly world is what Jung called it was a realm of images, you know, because nothing really happens there. You know, he said, this was in Memories, Dreams, and Reflections, that when you die, everyone gathers around you because they want to smell, you know, the breath of life because they miss it, you know. And what he said that he found that people do there is that they all seem to be on errands and they can't spend much time talking to you. But they all seem to have this spirit of mirth, like they want to share a secret joke. But what he said is, and this comes up in what is the Day of the Dead in Mexico called? I'm not exactly sure, but that the ancestors will remain conscious until all memory of them has left the living world. And then Jung said that he could discover very, you know, relatives, ancestors that had been dead many, many years, you know, maybe a few centuries. And they were there, but they were just completely asleep. You know, I mean, he had to sort of wake them up and they were, you know, they might, you know, become conscious for just a second, but then they drop back down. So what that all means, I'm not sure. But the whole idea is, what do you need consciousness for? You know, now this is very interesting, at least my thought on the Swan Maidens. I don't know if you have any, but the Swan Maidens, which came up in Europe before Christianity, I believe were the natural unfolding of the spiritual aspect in pagan Europe, you know, before Christianity, that rather than coming in with this highly spiritual religion of the Gnostics, you know, it was really a Gnostic, which I think had something to do with Alexander the Great bringing in Indian concepts from Hindu concepts into Alexandria, you know, and then the Gnostics formed, and they you know, they had this relationship with the Egyptians, who had this physical relationship of chemical transformation, and then you have the Gnostics come in, and that's how you got alchemy. It's the mixture of Gnosticism and these people who are expert in chemicals. But then you ask, the question is, why would this world of the fairies want the relationship with time and space? And because they long for the light. Now, this is going to come up in the aspect of redemption. In alchemy, your soul doesn't need being saved, or you don't need being saved. What needs to be redeemed is your soul, which completely lacks ego attention. You know, this is what it says. You know, she says, do not reject me because I'm black and you know, deep down in the mire. Your lack of light, your lack of attention has made me thus, you know. And this also comes up in the fleeting nature of these nature beings in your active imaginations. You can easily offend them because they're not used to the conscious world. And, you know, like Barbara Hannah's Animus told her, or soul told her, your world is as strange to us as ours is to yours. So the only way that you can, what Marie-Louise von Franz says is, you know, that your ego needs to get closer and closer to the middle plane. And then they will respond, you know, and come closer to the middle plane. And then that's when the philosopher's stone develops, this temple that is between the timeless world. Now remember, the timeless world is totally latent. It's totally potentiality. The whole idea is nothing, they don't have linear time there. There isn't one event that is followed by the next event, you know. And now it is strange because these myths come out of the inner world and they have narratives, you know, but they're all already fully formed. They don't unfold in time and space. You know, the thing of things unfolding in time and space is that there's far more drama there and far more unknown, you know. But it is fun, you know, the whole Christian myth came in almost completely whole, and then it was added some accretions to it through the eons. But that's through how all myths came about. But anyway, Tim, do you? I would say answer to your question is, why does the inner world? It's because why did Adam and Eve leave? Okay.
Wait, say that again. Why did
Adam and Eve leave paradise? Okay. It's the same reason the fairies and the inner world wants to be in the outer world. You know, it's called the fall of man, but it would, and Emma Young's going to talk about this, but it really means time begins. Okay. And what Young calls the second creation. You know, now he talked about this when he was on the hills of the Elgon mountain, looking down at all of the herds and the flying birds in the plains. You know, he suddenly he had a revelation of what it was like for the primate that became the hominids, suddenly recognizing, I am here. You know, they develop this Archimedean point that can look back at themselves. It's the only difference between you and the wonderful orangutan and the wonderful gorilla and the wonderful grizzly bear. They are every bit as conscious, every bit as clever, every bit as sly as you are, you know. But the one thing they don't have is this mirror. Now remember, Gary, this is another aspect of the mirror. The ego is a mirror that reflects nature back to itself, and then nature can see it. So there is this mirror, it's a double mirror, okay? Now, the self is a mirror that looks at the ego and looks at nature. So that's the second mirror. And then there's a third mirror that looks at the self, looking, watching the ego, and looking at its nature, you know. So there's supposedly three mirrors, you know, but the whole idea is this wonder. Now you know the one feeling, and I'm going to shut up after this unless there's any more questions. The one thing emotion I had in it, and this beautiful stories that we're going to read, is and I have the same feeling about Mozart. And I have the same feeling about the Impressionist painters, and all art, you know, and say, you know, just the great poetry. At one point, our sun is going to become a red giant, and Earth is going to burn up like that. Okay. And all of this will be gone. And yet we're here to experience it now. It's absolute, what Robinson Jeffers calls divinely superfluous beauty. Now you can see that in the monarch butterfly, in the bowerbird, in the tropical birds, in Joseph Campbell's mentions that in Neanderthal man would even have ceremonial axes, which could not be used as a real axe. They were too large and they had this beautiful ceremonial. Why did they do that? Because it was the master axe, and so this aspect of divinely superfluous beauty. So in other words, what Jung says is man is the candle that's lit in the darkness of mere being. Okay, is this light that so all these wonderful grazing herds and wandering grizzly bears and orangutans, all this wonderful consciousness, suddenly it can look back at itself and see what it did. And this age of the Romantic poets, which greatly influenced Jung, was the age when they discovered really that nature had a soul. This is a poem that I really like. This is, and now from the vast of the Lord will the waters of sleep roll in on the souls of men. But who will reveal to our waking ken, our knowledge, the forms that swim and the shapes that creep under the waters of sleep? And I would that I could know what swimmeth below when the tides come in. It's the hymn, I would that I could know what swimmeth below when the tides come in. What swims below us? How did consciousness come into being in the first place? It's just a complete mystery. And then added to that is this. And what I think the one thing that Emma Jung is going to add here as a revelation in this discussion of the nature beings is we need to know this. She's really providing a history of consciousness. And anyway, the idea, if there hadn't been people, if the beauty, okay, now spirit really means the divine, and nature is our bodies, and what really is soul is that the divine shines through our bodies. Okay, so it's the soul, that place where which the Dalai Lama and James Hillman call the Vale of Tears, the valley. It's not the mountain, it is the valley. That's where soul lives. The mountain is where is this air, this air place is represents the divine, but that's what the soul lets shine through nature. So anyway, that's kind of my myth of creation. I don't know, I didn't invent it myself, but well, anyway, any other comments, and then we'll jump into just
Yes,
look at a couple. Yeah, go ahead.
Interesting. My own impression is like, why do you have to become a swan? Is that because they are so different from us? Is that's a way of connecting, and that's all.
Yes.
Because they need to learn from our world, or the swans need to learn from your world, and vice versa. But because they're so different, we need to develop this kind of receptivity, that we have some kind of communication, because normally we don't. I think.
Well, and remember that I'm just look at this one more time, is what Hillman calls genuine awareness. This all has to do with the unconscious world. There's nothing about this thing that's rejected by ego is all the unconscious becoming conscious. All of this is. This is genuine awareness, is what Hillman calls, in other words, it's this realm up here at the top. This is the realm of real awareness. This realm down here is the one we live in, and it's informed by this, these things here on the left, and the idea of letting the eternal shine through the latent world, the one of potentiality, is we need this on the left to be very strong so that this thing on the right can become manifest in the world. I mean, the whole idea of a dream, which comes from this world, what it requires or asks, and it'll be an unopened letter unless you do, is for ego to provide two things. Here's ego over here. To provide two things: to provide the expression of the dream, to write it down, to paint it, to do something to express it and make it real and concrete in the outer world. And Jung says, after you do that, you will never be the same. The next dream will respond to what you've done. And so it leads somewhere. But then you add meaning to it, to the expression. And meaning comes from the world of this world. Now this is the animus. What the animus's great value is to provide meaning through its ability to differentiate and order. Through its ability to differentiate and order, it is able to provide a meaning that is not available in these raw unconscious contents. So that is the role of the logos and the animus. So when the logos becomes its own, which I think it became in the monasteries, just considering the same thing over and over again, a dead text which was frozen in time in words, not like this. Let me just show you. Here's one that's not. Here's a religion that is never dead, and this one. And this I brought up several times, but for the Naskapi Cree, a major obligation was to follow the instruction given by his dreams, the one he had last night, and then give permanent form to their contents and art. And who was receptive to the hints of Mistapeo, the companion, would get better and more helpful dreams. And this companion also becomes more real within. Now, this is the object of alchemy, is to redeem that unconscious being within us who lacks our attention. Our attention is light, so she's black, because we don't give her our light. The more light we give her, the more real she becomes. And she actually arises from those. And then if you stop, you were doing it for a while, you're doing your active imaginations and things, and then you stop, she goes back like that. So it's a constant process. But anyway, that is sort of what we're doing here. I mean, I really think it is it's just a and none of this really. That's why I say if we go through this book and then we go through the anima, through what Hillman is really good at is he is this person who takes nothing for granted, and whatever happens, he looks not what it being said, but what energies lie behind what's being said. And he reminds me of this guy. I mean, he's a truth bomb. And, you know, I mean, he just brings, and he makes all this thing. Young did the same thing, and Joseph Campbell, for these undecipherable myths. You know, he suddenly said, oh, that's related to me, not, it has nothing to do with the outer world. But Hillman is just particularly, at least the early Hillman. I don't think the later Hillman, I think he started to read his own press or whatever. But anyway, let's get into one of his water. Well, we'll finish. There's one left on the Swan Maiden, and then we're going to do some on the water beings, and then we're going to do I think one on the tree nymph. But you know, she's mentioning the prophetic abilities of women. Why? But really, it's just what we've been talking about. Is remember that the aspect of that right-hand side of the list never changes. The aspect of the left-hand side of the list is always developing, progressing, strengthening, reality testing all the time. But this side is a fixed point. And what it is doing is trying to communicate with this realm it created. Now remember what Meister Eckhart said, that the soul threw this image out before it, the ego, and let it develop, and now it's entering back into it. You know, so it's participating in time and space. The whole ontological reason for human beings was what Jung said, that here the whole history of the hominids on Earth was the progressive incarnation of a deity. You know, the progressive incarnation of the informing wisdom of nature, which wanted a mirror so it could see itself. Now, this is something Alan Watts, you know, the Zen philosopher, talks a lot about. You know, that this rock called Earth peopled so that the stars could see themselves. What do you think about that? You know, he said that like an apple tree apples, the Earth peopled, and then the people could see the star that wanted to see itself, see what it looked like. You know, so I mean, Alan Watts had some sort of the same vision. You know, Alan Watts and Jung met, by the way. I'll tell you the story real quick. Is Jung, there's somebody, the Jung family, that was having a birthday party, and they were having a kind of a group dinner there, you know, and then suddenly somebody jumped the fence and went across the lawn and comes in to the party and says, "Are you C.G. Jung?" And he says, "Yes, I am." He says, "I'd like to have a word with you." So then they go out and they talk for about an hour. And then Jung comes back and says, "That was one of the most permeable people I've ever met." It was Alan Watts. He jumps the fence and crashes the party to go talk to Jung. But anyway, we're going to just talk about this one more, the last Swan Maiden tale. And the reason we're going to talk about it is because it comes up with the aspect of the redemption of our source, which wants to be conscious in the outer world. And the only way it can become conscious in the outer world is for that left hand selection of qualities to be very strong, but to surrender its strength and listen to the right hand side, you know, of the images. And we saw that big list. I don't understand them all yet, but maybe we can gradually get to know them a little better. But anyway, it's a woodsman who's on a track of a deer. It reached a lake as 3 white swans came flying up. Immediately, they turned into 3 fair maidens who bathed in the lake. But after a while, they emerged from the water and flew away as swans. He could not get these maidens off his mind. And so he comes back 3 days later and finds them bathing again. He creeps up, it takes the swan mantle of the youngest one. She implores him to give it back, but he pretends to be deaf, takes it home, and the maid follows him. And she's received in a friendly way by his people and agrees to marry her. But there's always a condition to marrying the anima. And it's always violated and always unintentional. But that is the crisis that then you go like Parsifal, you don't get it on the first chance, that you're going to screw up on the first visit to the Grail. Then you have to go back and get it really. And that is what Annette was telling us about Angus, you know. So anyway, she comes back. Everyone's friendly to her. You know, she's marries him, and they lived happily together for several years. The man gave the swan mantle to his mother. Now, the mother, usually in several of these ones, she's the one who gives the anima that thing back, which causes her to leave. Now, Emma Young says you can interpret that two ways. Either the mother does not want her son to develop, you know, this is the typical image, or she says this is actually the great mother who wants her children to return to her, you know. But usually it is the mother. The mother's tidying up, finds the chest where the swan mantle is, opens it, and as soon as the young woman caught sight of her swan mantle, she threw it hurriedly around her, and with the words, "He who wants to see me again must come to the glass mountain that stands on the shining field," and swings herself in the air and flies away. And then the unhappy hunter goes to seek her, and with the assistance of friendly animals, and after many difficulties, finally finds her, and then he finds that she's enchanted, and he helps her get rid of the enchantment. So this is introduces this concept of redemption. You know, the idea that you know, you're it's really the idea of aletheia. You know, that when we're born, the soul and our ego are one, but when we enter time and space, the soul remains where it was, and it's only the ego that goes into time and space, but it forgets everything it knew before. So really, it's unenchanting itself. When he's unenchanting, or, you know, removing the enchantment of the anima, he's really removing the enchantment from himself, you know, so that he can unite with her, you know. And so anyway, he's I don't know, I better keep an eye on. I've blown this whole hour away. But anyway, so the problem is to redeem her, and this appears in so many fairy tales, you know, that the anima is enchanted and needs redemption. I really think it's the hero who lives in the ego realm, who through the help of animals finds the anima, through help of nature, finds the anima, and then removes the curse or something that separates him from his own source, his own nature, and his own soul, so that now he can be conscious of it. That means he's become a swan and united with her. You know, now this is the idea of active imagination. What we're doing in active imagination is we're trying to become swans. You know, I mean, we're going in there and we're softening up this horrible left-hand side of us, you know, so that it becomes more receptive to, or what Jung says, the difference between me and everybody else is to what them is opaque is to me transparent. you know, and so what he does is he becomes permeable to the depths, you know, and where we, because our the light of ego is so harsh. And by the way, you know, Emma Young says this, and so does Marion Woodman. All of us, men and women, are not feminine enough. The only way that we're going to get back to this world is to all become very feminine, you know. And the idea is to live in the present moment, to be receptive, to be reflective, to resonate. You know, all of this idea of entering the realm of images, being open to it, you know. But anyway, I kind of blew this hour away. I'm sorry, but it was kind of a fun discussion. But Gary, do you want to just, well, I guess I got 5 more minutes. Let me just finish if there's anything else here. Okay, the redemption is achieved by recognizing and integrating the unknown elements of the soul. Okay, by going and looking for her, he has recognized and integrated these unknown elements of the soul. And the reason that they're unrecognized is because they're undifferentiated and unconscious. That is, they're in their natural state, you know, and therefore, you know, there's this very close relationship with the inferior function. The soul are the same thing. The only way to redeem them is to become conscious of them, because we're unconscious of them. But then they're the door to the inner world, because they are unadapted to the outer world. Okay, anything that is unadapted to the outer world in its natural state still possesses the wisdom of nature, you know. So the inferior function and the anima, who's a nature being, a Naturwesen, you know, is in every fairy tale. What happens is that there is a quest, and the quest is the redemption of our soul in almost every case. And there's 3 sons, you know, and the 2 favored sons of the king always fail because they take the straight path, and they are using direct thinking of King Ego to force an outcome, you know. Where the rejected son, the one who's the fool, it isn't so adapted to that realm of the king ego, and so it uses animal helpers and the serpentine path. That's how we redeem our soul, because really our soul is nature. How do we rediscover nature? You know, and that's this idea of this thing here, which I just love, is this. I mean, I just listen to it again and again and again. You know, a pagan heart, but a Christian soul had he. He followed Christ, yet for nature he sighed. For dead nature he sighs. You know, the problem with Christianity is not Christianity, but let's just say the Logos world. We don't have to denigrate anything. It's not connected with our bodies and our nature. I think while we're alive, all of our wisdom is in all the dreams come out of the marrow of our bones, out of the cells of our body, out of our blood, out of our heart, out of our lungs, and out of our stomachs and our digestive system. That's where the dreams come. And that's the wisdom of nature, and we've got it right in ourselves. So that's where all our animal helpers are. All of our animal helpers. And so anytime in a dream where you descend, you're descending into nature. you're descending into your own body, you know, and that's the one who can give you the answers because it is informed. That's one thing. I was in an active imagination. I was coming in there with this, this tremendous knot of light right here, and I'm coming in, so I'm full of doubts. What in the hell am I doing here? And I asked the Great Mother, I said, could you get rid of this doubt in my head? And she says, who do you think you are? She says, who do you think created this consciousness you have? Who created your body? Who created your fingernails and gave you sight through your eyes and hearing through your ears? Well, anyway, let me turn over you to Gary because I got barking dogs here. Just let's hear from everybody if we can. Just any comments about anything, let's just go around the room. Okay.
So Tim, do you wanna start?
Man, I'm just continually fascinated with the unfolding of those inner spirits. Like, for instance, the idea of there being 1,000 animas and we have to pick the right one. The distinction between those different entities is really fascinating to me. As I get older, I see that there is a kind of delineation between the different aspects of my anima and my inner characters. And all of this stuff is just really fascinating to me, and how that becomes unfolded and one part is distinguished from another. So it's just continually a great meditation element for me to come back to this over and over in different ways and try to apply a little bit of consciousness to each side of the idea. So it's just very, very rich, and I'm grateful for the opportunity.
It's your soul. It's not this guy's soul and that guy's soul. That comes up in another one, dream that we're going to have. That he wants to marry this water nymph, and the water nymph's father comes up, and then two of these women come up. Says, if you can find out which one is your real soul, then you can marry her, but not unless you can distinguish between it.
Yeah, and for me, one really interesting parallel right there is those of you who've seen my Visitation by the Muse video. There's this young woman that I met 30 years ago who was really the face of my anima. And interestingly enough, several years later, I found in a friend's house hanging a portrait of a woman who looked exactly the same. And she was born 100 years earlier in this town. And other people have come in and seen her photograph and mistaken her for my friend. And they both, one was named Elisa, and the woman who was born 100 years ago, her name was Elsa Elisa Elias.
Wow.
And so it's very much this same dichotomy. Here are these two women with seemingly the same face, 100 years apart. And part of my task is to make that distinction, to come up with the truth of what it is that dwells within me.
That is, after reading this thing by Emma Young, I've had COVID all week. I'm just got off quarantine today. I mean, we actually did have both, my wife and I. But so I wasn't doing my active imaginations, but with which I try to do about at least 45 minutes a day, which is, I call the blessed hour too. But through reading all this and with Hillman, because I couldn't do my active imagination, I just didn't feel I could focus that way anymore, being so ill. And I just suddenly realized that this anima is nature herself, you know, and I'm going to have a little more respect for her next time I meet her. But anyway, go keep going, Gary.
Yeah, Annette, would you like to make a comment?
It's just lovely to be part of this discussion, and yeah, thank you all. It's wonderful to listen to it, and I hope you have recovered, Greg, as well from your COVID.
How about you, Camelia?
Did you say something?
Yeah,
me?
would you like to make a comment?
Yes, well, I've been thinking very much of an experience that I've had for about 10, 11 years, which has been, I suppose, a kind of understanding a possession, an anima possession, if I may call it that, which was predicted almost by 10 months in advance of meeting this person. And the way we couldn't get one another in sort of in real life, if you like, but we developed a kind of language, and certainly I developed a written language through which I suppose it reminisces a little bit of the active imagination, or yeah, I think it's taken that sort of space for me, because all of the myths and the sort of allusions you did to the water nymphs and sort of, I've been through it all. I've been a fish, I've been water, it's been really, and I've let myself go with the flow just to sort of also understand the animus part, because obviously an anima and an animus is, I suppose, is different depending on the man or the woman, and also who was my animus in relation to this man that I fell in love with. And well, it's just been fascinating to see the kind of both adventure, but also the kind of nature that I have become through my writing, through allowing myself to become whatever was the possession, either by him or by myself on him. You know, I'm completely sort of in awe of the space that was created between us. And in a way, luckily, we couldn't get one another, because I think we would have ruined each other because it was so forceful. But we were able to create this very sort of luminous language, if you like. Yeah.
Kind of a secret communication, you know, it's just this wonderful soul to soul, you know, and it actually then your soul gets the chance to speak, you know.
Absolutely.
I think too, you know, the idea is that your hands speak with a different consciousness than your mouth does, you know.
Yeah, I agree.
And
Yes.
head, you know, and so, you know, for instance, when my wife writes anything, it's just so incredibly deep, you know, and so I think something else is coming out there. And, you know, that's what Barbara Hanna says, that don't worry that you think that you invented it. You'll find out pretty soon you didn't. You had, there are statements that are made in writing of that type that you look back and you say, I could never have said that. That did not come from here.
Yeah, because I can't remember very well when I speak. For example, I was impressed by you remembering the word aletheia. I was thinking,
yes.
Oh my gosh, he's thinking and remembering. I can never do that. I can recall them when I write, but I cannot think them into my words when I speak. This is a very interesting, I've been observing this a lot. So, but in writing, it's really fluent, and even more, I mean, more than I ever thought was possible. Yeah. It's interesting that.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Camilla.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Just
Thank
beautiful.
you.
Jorge, would you like to say anything?
Well, thanks for the welcoming. I live in Mexico City. I don't have any so much to say about this. This is my first session, but I felt this call when I see the group in Facebook, and I am pleased to see what I'm seeing here. So I hope to follow the next readings. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jorge. I mean, I hope you come back. I can just those few words kind of awoke something in me. So go ahead, Gary.
Oh, yeah, no, I agree. Miles, do you have anything to say?
Hi, yeah, I do. Welcome, Jorge. I'm on the north side of the United States. I'm in Canada, so I'm putting everything we are talking about. I'm taking us into the Canadian context, and my work began with reading what is referred to as the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's summary report of 2015, which is testimonies of Indigenous people and the effects of the residential schools. Basically, they were more like work camps. They weren't residential. People didn't reside there. They were Indigenous children forcibly taken from their parents to be indoctrinated in the logos, basically. You know, I could say now that I know this word logos better. And our failure to recognize the Indigenous people possessing the genuine awareness that Craig has presented here today. And so this word reconciliation is one that I've had to figure out, well, what does that mean? And how do we reconcile? And obviously this, my learning from Craig and others about the soul is, and redeeming the soul is integral. It's inseparable from reconciliation. And so a couple of notes I also have here that, you know, as Craig mentioned, in every story, it's about a quest to redeem, rediscover our soul. And coincidentally, I chose Quest 3210 back in when I first decided I need to maybe start something on my own. This is going back to 2014, I'm thinking. So quest is a word that comes up for me. You know, this is a quest we are on, and I'm trying to always say we because my education is from you, you know, and everyone here. And what I'll say as well, something recently that I encountered on Laura London's website, speaking of young, I'm pretty sure the most recent episode, an interview of Lewis Morris, a Jungian analyst and filmmaker now living and working in Zurich. I believe in this interview, he says, Wolfgang Pauli points out that, or it's out of quantum physics. Wolfgang Pauli did incredible work in the area of quantum physics and says that time and space are actually one. And, you know, that's, again, a real struggle for us to get our heads around it, but it's part of genuine awareness. And it's at a higher metaphysical perspective than I'm typically able to grasp. But it occurs to me, and I'm not sure if he says it as well in this interview, that not only time and space on the horizontal, but synchronicity and causality on the vertical. Wouldn't those be one too? So in other words, every moment is a causality and at the same time a synchronicity if we go deep enough. So, you know, for example, today Craig presented the image of the West Coast Native people of North America as a photo, and then the Naskapi people of Labrador in Eastern and Northern Canada. And Tim and I are very interested in learning more about the Niitsitapi people, the Blackfoot, Blackfeet Confederacy where we live. And they have their Blackfoot metaphysics, which is, again, I would say this genuine awareness. And the tragedy is for the newcomers to North America failing to appreciate genuine awareness, being stuck in the logos and thinking that the Indigenous people need to be indoctrinated into our way of thinking. Blackfoot metaphysics, Dr. Leroy Littlebear, they say that spirit is energy, energy is spirit. And they also, the Niitsitapi people also recognize all of our relations, which is what Craig is talking about here today, all of our relations, and that the animals are our relations, and the animals have spirit, and the animals have lessons for us to teach us. And so with that, I guess I'm complete. Thank you.
Yeah, you know, who tells the when there's about a tsunami about ready to occur or an earthquake is occur, who tells the animals what to do? I mean, they all head for higher ground before the tsunami even comes. Or who tells the hummingbird how to fly from Central America to our backyard, the same hummingbirds every year? I mean, it's you know, I saw these. I was in the park and there was this snake. Everybody's gathered around watching this snake go up the tree, you know, and they're saying, "What kind of snake is that?" You know, and I said, "Well, I'm not really sure, but you know why it's going up there?" And he said, "No." He says, "Because Master Snake told him that he could maybe find a bird's nest up there, you know, told him in a dream, you know, so he's going up there to see if it's true, you know." But I mean, the whole idea is, and you know, I just want to say this is something I think with my wife is, you know, nature treats every species as if its absolute favorite species, and that every other species is an enemy in a lot of cases. You know, the porcupine. Why do we need a porcupine? Why does he need that kind of defense? Or the skunk, you know, that shoots out the thing. I mean, this unbelievable defenses. And you know, the idea of our dogs keep getting burrs and we can't get them out of the fur. And I said, well, that's the master burr wants to make sure that seed gets laid somewhere. So, and I'll tell you something else. I'm just tell you one other thing. My wife has these two plants, one's here, one's here. And this one has a vine plant. The vine, this one's kind of out of the sunlight. The vine goes up. There's a hole in the bottom of the other pot. The vine goes up to the hole in the bottom of the other pot and goes up through that pot and comes out on top. Now, she says, I said, don't touch that. I mean, it's just absolutely beautiful. But I mean, anyway, it's this consciousness. Now, one thing in Canada, and I think a lot of the Western tribes, who I think it's still in case in a lot of the Eastern tribes of North America, but they have they still have a living, growing, developing myth, you know, and that's why when you read about these schools, the lament of there comes through. It's not the lament. You are listening to the beauty of their own myth when they're presented with this soulless world of the of the schools, you know, that has no soul. Anyway, keep going, Gary.
Yeah, so we got a question from Camellia in the chat. And it reads, if myths are not unfolding in time and space, why are they applied into a traditional narrative structure? I think you muted yourself.
I know, okay, that is a wonderful question. And it is, why are dreams in narratives? Why do dreams have a setting, certain people in the dream, crisis occurs, and then it's either resolved or not resolved? You know, why does that, how does that come up? Now, the thing is that the myth has this drama in it, but it came from the timeless realm, okay? Because now, Jung had this one patient one time that would come and just make up his dreams, you know, and he kept doing it for about a year. And finally he tells Jung, he says, you know, these aren't my real dreams. I just been making them up. He said, oh, I knew that on the first one. And the idea is the dream has an unmistakable character. So does the myth. And when you hear it, you feel okay, I just want to say, I don't know if you guys work on your dreams, okay? If you take a dream, and what I usually do is I take the dream and I list each thing. And then for each item in the dream, I just write something. And then I write something for the next thing. And, you know, at first the dream just seems so garbled, but then it just absolutely falls into place. And the thing I want to mention is while I'm doing this, I feel a inner feeling like I feel in no other activity I do. And in the act of imagination, the soul says, that's because I'm with you. That's when I am with you. You're feeling me when you do that. And that's why, you know, I call it the blessed hour. But I mean, the idea of dealing with genuine contents. This is what Marie-Louise von Franz says, fairy tales are absolutely priceless because we are dealing with an X-ray of the psyche. It possesses all four functions, and it also possesses the wisdom of nature in it. And it came, where did it come from? No person could have written that. And what the unconscious does, you know, like if you start having dreams, Gary's been having dreams about wearing masks all the time. What it does is it takes the images of the outer, it has eyes that see things you don't see. It has ears that hears things you don't hear. And it says, oh, listen, look, that happened to you yesterday. You know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of how soulless you are. And let me show you through that analogy how you're going the wrong way. You know, the idea is that the one who writes the dreams, the one who writes the myths is your root, your rhizome, this huge, massive root that lies under the ground. And you're just this little green shoot that comes out of it, you know. And the idea is the dream is the rudder to try to get you going on the right path. And you're not and so when you have a dream about a car, a lot of times, I've said this last time, that who's driving the car? It's not you. Someone else is driving the car. It's like a house, but this one has motion. But who's steering it? And where does the energy come from? This is psyche driving the car. And it's showing you either that you're going in the wrong direction, you're going to crash, or that, you know, often I would feel, you know, there'd be a big cover on the front of the windshield. I can't see anything. And yet the car doesn't have a crash, and it's just telling me, hey, don't worry, I'm driving this thing, not you. You're not the master in your own house. But anyway, the idea of where did myths come from? Where did fairy tales come from? Where do dreams come from? This should be mind-blowing to us, because the Jews say, because they recognize this, God created man because he loves a story. Okay. If God loves a story, he does love a story. You know, that's what Jung calls the afterlife and the unconscious. He calls it a realm of images. It's real. But now the one, I'll say one other thing, is the dream that came to the snake that went up the tree and the dream that comes to the grizzly bear is the same dream you have. You know, it presents the dream in the same fashion. The only development is now there are words, and there's also the aspect of meaning. You know, I mean, the idea of the incarnation of the deity is to evolve the God image and everything. So our dreams have an aspect of this, and I'll tell you, this is. Let me just show you real quick, because this is going to tell you a little bit about what myths are, okay, and what dreams are. Let me see if I can get this here. Now, this is about Nicodemus, who is mentioned in, I believe it's in the Gospel of John. But anyway, he has this dream that there's a burning tree. It's an alchemical transforming tree. This tree bears fruit, okay? And when this fruit is harvested, that's the fruit is us, okay? You're a piece of fruit on this tree. This is the tree of life, of the tree of the ancestral wisdom, okay? When the fruit has been harvested, it's stored in a vast storehouse with all the fruit that has ever been harvested in all the ages. It's this eternal storehouse of fruit. And each piece of fruit has its own resonance that forever alters the fruit that comes after. You know, and the idea, that's the evolution of the God image. You have that resonance. Goethe had that resonance. You know, was the world the same after Goethe? You know, was the world the same after Picasso or James Joyce, you know, or Jung or Joseph Campbell? You know, there's just this idea of these transformational characters. But anyway, the idea is that I think also, this is just my theory, is that the evolution is forward thinking. You know, I mean, it isn't cause and effect. It's synchronicity and acausality, and it sees a niche, it fills it. You know, and the proof I have of this is one time I was in Shed's Aquarium, and I see a seaweed seahorse. You know, how do I get rid of this? Let's see. I gotta oh yeah. And it has the same seaweed growing out of its body as it lives in. Okay. Now, how did that happen? You know, I mean, here's the seaweed seahorse floating through the same seaweeds growing on its body. I mean, the idea is that it's just this divinely superfluous beauty or whatever. The DNA is of you. Your life changes the DNA of everybody else that ever lived. And Edinger was really into this too, because he said the idea of people who've experienced past lives, he says they didn't really experience the past life or live the past life. This was his theory. Okay. And Jeffrey Raft, by the way I told him this, and he says, well, that was his theory. You know, he wasn't buying it. But this was Edinger's theory. is that, an archetype awakens in you that very powerfully, that also was awakened this person very powerfully. So when you open that portal so wide, there was also this portal, and those memories suddenly flew into fell into your consciousness. And so suddenly you can say, well, I know it was 300 years ago, and they lived on this street, and they had 11 kids, 5 were boys and 6 were girls, and one of them married a princess, and then somebody goes back and looks, and it's exactly as they described. But the whole idea is now, here's the other thing, Camilla, and I'm going to shut up about this story stuff, is this is how some people, Miles said that the time and space are one, okay? Our vision of linearity, the linearity of time, one moment following another, is an illusion. This Albert Einstein told us this, and so our book is already written, that people who can who was it, Nostradamus, or even say the astrological people who said that we were going to be, I mean, this was back probably in the age of Horus the Bull, and then you went through Aries and Pisces, and then the next one is going to be the water bear. They defined the unfolding of the evolution of the God images, okay? 5,000 years ago, okay? So there's this idea of that everything that has ever happened and everything that's going to happen happened in sort of a random way, but it actually, everyone, that history is all in one book. So you're on page 203 of a 400-page book. Well, page 400 exists somewhere. Now I don't know that whether that means anything, but when people can foresee something that's going to happen, with this deja vu and everything that happens, there is an aspect that that suddenly they became permeable to get out of the linearity of time. And so suddenly all of time was available to them at once. And it just so happened that particular event fell into your awareness, So anyway, it is God created man because he loves a story, and every myth is a story. Every myth has a drama. Yes, go ahead.
I was just wondering if you could Google and bring up an image of a piece of work by an American artist named Barnett Newman. It's called Voice of Fire. I was just wondering if you could present that.
All right. Well, Gary, why don't you ask somebody else?
Yeah. So, Angel, do you have any comments? Are you there, Angel?
Yeah, I'm not sure if Angel has the ability to speak.
How about you, Don? Do you have anything you want to say? And maybe you could stop the recording.
Yeah, I'm going to stop the recording so Jan can participate.
Carlos, do you have anything you want to say? And I'll go over to Jan. So,
yeah,
Carlos,
just a second. I'm going to stop the recording.